We are on page 288 in the Tzurba volume 11. We are dealing with the hilchot of the shliach tzibur. Right. So last week we were dealing about how to behave. Right. You have to listen. You have to answer amen. If a person was still in the middle of davening, what does he do? And they come up to nagdishach. How he says nagdishach. All these things that I went through last week. This week, we're going to start off what happens if a shliach tzibur makes a mistake in his davening. Okay, so now he's really going to have to break it down to two separate cases. We have case number one, when you're davening the quiet Shmona Esrei. So this is the Chazan's quiet Shmona Esrei. He's going to read soon the loud Shmona Esrei. So he made a mistake in his quiet Shmona Esrei. Then the second case you're going to have to deal with, what happens if the Chazan makes a mistake in the loud Shmona Esrei and the repetition? So what do we do if the Chazan makes a mistake? So this is where we're starting off. Page 288, Masechta Berachot, Daf Lamed, Amud Beit. Rav Chia bar Abba Tzali. Rav Chia bar Abba was davening, Bahadat Tzali, and then he davened again. Amalei Reb Zera, my Tama Ovid Marhachi. Says to him, Rav Zera says to Rav Chia, why are you davening twice? So now they put three dots there, means there's a couple of other words that they're not bringing down. Anyway, continues the Gemara. It's because he missed Yalav Yavo. Okay, so it must have been Yalav Yavo Shaharit, right? We don't go back for Aravit, but let's say he missed. Let's see what it says here. Mar Derish Yerecha, the beginning of the month, he missed. But Tanya, we taught Ta'a below his Kirshel Rosh Chodesh Ba'aravit. The person didn't remember to say Rosh Chodesh at Aravit. He doesn't go back. If you missed it at Shacharit, that's what the Gemara says. The Gemara says you don't go back because the next tefillah you're going to do it. Okay, now Allah, we do go back if you missed it by Shacharit. But right now, I'm in the Gemara. Gemara says if you missed it by Aravit, no problem, because you're going to say Yal V'Yava in Shacharit. You missed it in Shacharit, no problem, you say Yal V'Yava in Musaf. Missed it in Musaf, say it in Mincha. So now that's why he's asking Rav Chia bar Abba. He saw Rav Chia bar Abba that he was davening. He finished Shmona Esrei and then davened again. So he asked him why you're davening again. He says he missed Yal V'Yava. He says, but if you missed Yal V'Yava, you don't go back. You just say it the next tefillah. So Amar Le, Rav Chia said to Rav Zera, Lav Itmar Allah, Amar Rav Yochanan, he said to him, wasn't it said about this? Amar Rav Yochanan, Betzibor Shanu, when they taught that you don't say it in Shacharit, you say it in Musaf, that was taught about a tzibur. What does this mean? So let's take a look at the Rif on source 33. Tanya. Ta'avalo hiskesha rosh chodesh shacharit in machzin nato mipnei sheyesh tfilat hamusafin lefanav. Amar Rabbi Yochanan of tzibur shanu. We learned this about a tzibur. Perush mipnei torach tzibur. It's because torach tzibur. Because if the Chazan made a mistake in Yal V'Yava, and now you're going to make him repeat the whole Shmona Esrei over, right? What? No, loudly. Okay, we're going to see which one it is. Fine, you're right. It could be, somehow it's a Torah Tzibur, whether he has to repeat his whole quiet Shmona Esrei, or he has to repeat the whole loud Shmona Esrei. Since it's going to be Torah Tzibur, but if a Yachid missed Yal V'Yava, he has to go back. Now, Rabbeinu Yonah says, with Tzibur, Kalaimer Shliach Tzibur Kishata Emachzrina Tov Mipnei Torah Tzibur. This is when a Shliach Tzibur makes a mistake, we don't make him go back because it's Torah Tzibur. Kivan Shetfilat Musafin Lefanav Sheyaskir Ba Inyan Rosh Chodesh. Because you're going to have Musaf and you're going to say they're Rosh Chodesh. So therefore he doesn't have to. Avo Yachid Machzrina Tov Ben Kishem Mitpalel Bebeto Yachidi Ben Kishem Mitpalel Im HaTzibur. So it seems to be saying right now, the way the Gemara we learned, and the way we learned from the Rif and the Rabbeinu Yonah, is that if a person missed, if a Chazan missed Yalav Yova during Shacharit, he doesn't go back to repeat it, since he's going to be davening Musaf right after. Okay? Now, the Gemara seem to be saying any tefillah, right? Aravit, Shaharit, Musaf. The way the Rishonim bringing it down, it's just Shaharit and Musaf. Okay? That's the way the Rif brings it. He says you're going to have Musaf right after, right? Sheyesh tefillah Musafim lefanav. So says Rabbeinu Yonah, Kivan tefillah Musafim lefanav. They're not saying like the Gemara, that every tefillah. Well, what does the Shulchan Aruch say? Shulchan Aruch says like this: Kol makom shehayachid chayzer mitpalel. Any place that a person who's praying by himself has to go back and daven, shliach tzibur chayzer mitpalel. The shliach tzibur also has to go back and daven again. Im ta'akimoto kemishpalel b'kol ram. This is all talking about when he's doing the repetition. Okay, if he made a mistake where a yachid made a mistake, if the yachid in his private shemona esrei made a mistake and has to go back, a shliach tzibur made a mistake in the loud shemona esrei, he has to go back. That's what he says again. Kol makom shayachid chayzer mitpal shliach tzibur chayzer mitpal im ta'ak kemoto kemishmitpalel b'kol ram. When's the exception? Chutz mishacharit shel rosh chodesh. She'im shochach shliach tzibur. If the shliach tzibur during his loud shemona esrei forgot below his kiyal v'yavo ad shehishlim tefilato, until he finished his tefillah, ein machzirin oto. You don't make him go back. So he says he misses yal v'yavo. He goes into ritzah, right? He goes into moedim. He says sim shalom. He's finished the shemona esrei, and now everyone says, "Oh, you missed yal v'yavo." You don't make him go back. The tzarich tzibur. By the way, it has happened, such a case. Okay, I was davening in a place once, and it was Rosh Chodesh. The Chazan forgot to say Yal V'Yova. And I was also thinking, then I realized he didn't say Yal V'Yova, but now he finished Manasseh. So what do? The halacha is you don't make him go back. It's Tarach Tzibur. Because you have Musafim Lefanav, you're having Musaf right in front of you. Ein Masderin no tov, Mipnei Tarach Tzibur. Sharei Tfilat Musafim Lefanav, Shehu Maskir, Bo Rosh Chodesh. Because you're going to have Musaf right away. So therefore, the Chazan missed in the repetition, in the Chazarah, he missed Yal V'Yavo, you don't make him go back. But if it's before he finishes tefillah, now when is it he doesn't have to go back to read Yal V'Yavo? If he's finished the Shmoneh Esrei, right? Bravos v'shalom, he finished that, then you don't make him go back. But if he's in the middle of, he just said Sim Shalom, he didn't finish the bracha yet, you make him go back to Ritzah and say Yal V'Yavo. That's not considered a Tricha de Tzibura, because it's just a couple of berachot, another minute or two. It's not going to be the end of the world. But if you make him go back to the beginning, that's going to be a problem. Yeah. No, go ahead. It's fine. Questions are okay. Questions are fine. Yeah. You have to go back.
People like this that doesn't mention.
Okay.
So you have to make.
You're right. He's saying very good. He's saying if the tzibur didn't pick up that the Chazan missed Yal V'Yavo, they should go back and say it again. I hear you, and I agree with you understanding, but
that's why I'm not sure.
That's right. But you know what it is? I think a lot of times in the morning people are just there, and it's just like, you know what it's like. It's just we're trying to get the tefillah over. Did I say it? Did I not say it? You know, like people, and that's what he says. That's the tzibur. You don't go back. I just wanted to bring down from the Yalkut Yosef the two little halachot over here. I try to always, every time we learn it here, I like to bring it from the Yalkut Yosef as well. And he says over here, Shliach Tzibur Shetov B'Tfilat Halacha Shacharit Shel Rosh Chodesh, Halacha Shacharit Shel Rosh Chodesh, V'lo Hiskir Yal V'Yavo. Okay, so now we're talking about, Yalkut Yosef was talking about where he's in his lahash, in his quiet Shmoneh Esrei. He didn't say it. V'lo Hiskir Yal V'Yavo. Oshlo Sha'al Talum Matar B'Yemot Geshamim. Or he didn't say Talum Matar. Okay?
He's repeating anyway.
V'nisker kishesayem tefilato lo yichzor litfil b'lachash mipnei rach tzibur. So if you made a mistake in your quiet Shmoneh Esrei, as the Chazan, you're going to repeat it next. You don't go back. Because now everyone's going to wait for you to do another 4-minute Shmoneh Esrei. It's going to take too much time. Sher yitzrichu lehamtin lo ad sheisayem tefillah hashniya shelo. El yismoch atfilat hachazara shemasker bar Rosh Chodesh So if he made a mistake in his quiet Shmona Esrei, he doesn't go back. Okay. Next he says here, Shliach Tzibur shetov b'tfilat hachazara shel shacharit rosh chodesh. O chol hamoed v'shachas lo miyal v'yama v'heshlim tfilato ein machzirin oto v'pnei tzarach tzibur sharei tfilata musafin lefanav shehu maskir ba rosh chodesh. So that's the halacha l'maisa for us. That if the chazan makes a mistake in his quiet Shmona Esrei, he doesn't say Yal v'yavoy, he doesn't go back. If he made a mistake in the loud Shmona Esrei, he doesn't go back either if you missed Yal v'yavoy and you finish the tefillah. So you can have a chazan who didn't say Yal v'yavoy, not in his quiet Shmona Esrei, and now in his loud Shmona Esrei, and you're still continuing the tefillah, you don't go back because you're going to have musaf next. Okay, that's how far it can go. Now, aval in this shlo amar Yal v'yavoy achar shechosam hamachsa shchinat l'tzion yomer sham Yal v'yavoy. Right. So this is a simple. Anytime you finish a bracha, as long as you didn't start that other bracha yet, that you can add in stuff that belongs to the previous bracha. So you can say Yal v'yavoy when you finish the Machshah Shechinato L'Tzion. You can say Yal v'yavoy over there, right after you finish the bracha. But once you start the modim, in this case, Shlo Amar Yal v'yavoy, Oishem Shich b'brachot Shla Acharikan, the Kohanim Sheheshlem Tfilato. In this case, Shlo Amar Yal v'yavoy, Chazal L'Ritzeh. The Ein Bezeh Terech Tzibur. So it's only considered Terech Tzibur if you finish the Shmona Esrei. Now you're going to go back. As long as it's in the last 3 berachot, he didn't yet finish, you do make him go back. That's not considered a tricha de tzibur. Okay, so what do we come out with? Up until this point, you missed in your chazan, misses in his quiet Shmona Esrei, you don't make him go back. Misses in Yal v'yavoy we're talking about, and Talmuter. Yal v'yavoy and Talmuter, you don't make him go back. And if it's in the loud Shmona Esrei, he missed Yal v'yavoy, you also don't make him go back because you have Rosh Chodesh Musaf coming up. Okay, now the question is this specifically only Rosh Chodesh? Or is this also can be Shabbat? What do you mean by Shabbat? The Chazan didn't say Baruch Mekadesh HaShabbat. He said that the Tfilah Shel Chol. The Tfilah Shel Chol. It's a regular Shabbat, and he's reading the regular 18 bracha Shmona Esrei instead of the 7 bracha Shmona Esrei. So let's see. The Beit Yosef says as follows.
Repeat, no?
Well, let's see. According to us, we will have to repeat. According to Ashkenazim, you don't have to repeat. So we see. Poshu de Lishana the Braita Achimashra Mediktani lo Hisker Shel Rosh Chodesh the Imloi Kain Litne B'Yom Shishi Boy Imloi Kain Litne B'Yom Sheyesh Boy Musa. It should say Sheyesh Bo Musa. It doesn't say Sheyesh Bo Musa. If it says Rosh Chodesh Ta'av lo Hisker Shacharit Em Machzirin Oto Hilkach Vaday Mashad Rosh Chodesh Dafka Kamar V'Hachi Naktinon. So the Beit Yosef says, if it's any day that you have Musaf, that you make a mistake in the Shacharit, you don't go back. It should have said if you made a mistake in Shacharit on the day that you have Musaf, but it's not what it said. It said you make a mistake on Rosh Chodesh Shacharit. Must mean only for Shacharit Shel Rosh Chodesh. You made a mistake on Shacharit Shel Rosh Chodesh, you don't make him go back because you're going to have Musaf, but not any day that you have Musaf. Now he brings from the Darchei Moshe. Who's the Darchei Moshe? This is the Ramah, right? The Ramah is Darchei Moshe writes as follows. This last sack doesn't seem clear to him. They say you do not go back. Meaning, if you made a mistake on Shabbat, where there's a Musaf, on the Shacharit, you didn't speak the Shabbat, you don't have to go back to repeat the Shacharit Shmona Esrei out loud, because you're going to have Musaf. And he says, also from the Rambam, he says it seems to be saying this as well. Therefore, you don't go back. So the Shulchan Aruch, the Beit Yosef Shulchan Aruch, says it's Dafka Rosh Chodesh. It's only if you messed up in the Shacharit Rosh Chodesh and you didn't say Yal V'Yavo, you don't have to repeat it because you're going to do it in Musaf. Shiach Tzibur. Let's talk about the Shiach Tzibur. Repetition. The Rama writes, on the other hand, Yesh Oimrim the Im Ta'a b'Shacharit Shel Shabbat Yom Tov Dino Kemo b'Rosh Chodesh L'Hachin Hagu. And this is the way they're noheg. So with Ashkenazim, according to the Rama, he's basing himself on the Tur and the Smak. He's saying that if they made a mistake, they didn't pray the Shacharit Shel Shabbat. They pray Shacharit Shel Chol. You don't make him repeat it. You're just going to do Musaf. According to the Beit Yosef, according to Shulchan Aruch, it doesn't bring that down. Therefore, the halacha would be that you would have to repeat it for Sfaradim. Okay. So far, so good? Right. I think it's going to go with Rav Shmuel says, if you made such a huge mistake that you said the whole tefillah shel chol, and no one realized you to stop you, you're going to have to go back. Okay. Now in note 17, before we move further, in note 17, he brings in over here, what happens on Aseret Yemei Tshuva? If instead of saying HaMelech HaKadosh, the Chazan said HaEl HaKadosh. So we know that the first three berachot are considered a set. If you make a mistake in one of the first three berachot, you usually have to go back. So what do you do if the Chazan said HaEl HaKadosh instead of Melech HaKadosh, and then he went into the next bracha already? So do we make him go back to the beginning of Shemona Esrei or not? So it's actually going to be a machloket. He brings over here from Shlomo Zalman Auerbach and Chacham Ovadia. So what is the machloket? You're going to see Chacham Ovadia over and over again. He says that if you're saying Nagdishach, that closes off the set. And now the bracha Ata Kadosh is a separate bracha. Nagdishach ends off the first three berachot. So if you did that, then you made a mistake in HaMelech, you said El Kadosh instead. All you have to do is go back to Ata Kadosh. You do not have to go back to the beginning of Shemona Esrei. Where Shlomo Zalman Auerbach said, no, Ata Kadosh is still part of the set. It's not, Nagdishach doesn't separate it. So, but that's what it says over here. He says, Shliach Tzibur Shetah Ba'aseh Shemei Tshuva V'chasam Ha'el HaKadosh V'lo Nizker El Achash Ha'avar Zman Shel Torch Kedei Dibur Chazer LeBirkat Ata Kadosh Shekivan Sha'atzibur Omer Kedusha Ein Lo Lichzor L'Rosh HaTefillah. Once he says Kedusha, he doesn't go back to the beginning of the davening. And this is the way for Sfaradim, this is the way we should go. That once you finish Nagdishach, that's considered the set. At the Kodesh is not considered a separate new bracha, that you only have to go back to fix that. You don't have to go, you don't have to start over the Shemona Esrei. Okay? According to Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, you would have to start Shemona Esrei over. The Chazan would have to start Shemona Esrei over the repetition one if you made that mistake. Okay? That's Agav over there. Now, what about the silent Shemona Esrei? So we already mentioned from the Alka Joseph, but let's see from the Rambam. So the Shiach Tzibur is not davening his quiet Shemona Esrei. Ani Omer, the Rambam says, She'enu chozer mitpalel pam shniya mipnei torach tzibur el somech al hatfilah shemitpalel b'kol ram. He's going to be somech on the tefillah that he is going to be saying out loud. That's a Shemona Esrei that he's going to be fulfilling his chov through. Okay. Vehu shloi tov v'shlosh rishonot. So if he's in his quiet Shemona Esrei, the Chazan is his quiet Shemona Esrei, and he made a mistake in one of the first three berachot, right? Which you have to get right. You can't move forward without that. Since it's in the first three, and you have to get them right, it's not really considered first of all, you have to get it right. And second of all, it's not really considered Torah Tzibur if you're just starting right in the beginning. Like we saw, it's not considered a bother to the congregation if you're going to say Yal V'Yova in the last three berachot and you go back to repeat it. Look at the Shulchan Aruch. So we're on source 40 on page 291. Shulchan Aruch says, he's quiet Shemona Esrei. The Chazan is saying is quiet Shemona Esrei, and he made a mistake. He doesn't go back to read it a second time because it's going to be too long for the congregation to wait. He will have to go back as a single person is reading it because the first three brachot, very important to get right. So if you messed it up, you have to go back.
What is he talking about? The person who is making mistake on the following and the continuation, which is
So he said the bracha. He's saying the quiet Shemona Esrei, and instead of saying Hamel Hakadosh, he said El Hakadosh.
no, but that's
No, he's quiet Shemona Esrei.
right. In the quiet point, so
Right. So now he's made to Abishlosh Rishonot. Now he has to start over his own quiet Shemona Esrei.
you're referring to the Chazara.
Talking about his quiet Shemona Esrei. We're not up to Chazar yet.
Okay. If he made
So I'm the
mistake
Chazan.
if he made
I'm the Chazan. I'm davening my quiet Shemona Esrei. Instead of saying Hamel Hakadosh, I said Ha'el Hakadosh. It went past the time Ketech Dimur, so now I have to start Shemona Esrei over.
do you or you?
Yes, I have to.
So what is he saying? Ela somech al tefillah shikpal b'kol ram.
Always, except the Hushalo Ta B'Shloish Rishonot.
Is he now referring about the fact that he's going to do Chazara?
No, talking about his quiet Shemona Esrei. If he made a mistake in his quiet Shemona Esrei, in the first three, he has to go back. So look what he says. Same thing that he says in the Shulchan Aruch. He has to go back.
He's gonna go back anyway.
Look at the notes. He'll bring from Hilchot Kitanot, who explains that if one errs within the first three barachot, it is not a significant inconvenience to the tzibur for the sheikh tzibur to repeat the Amida from the beginning, right? I made a mistake in the first three barachot, and I caught it right away, so I go right back. It's another minute. It's not like 4 minutes extra to the tefillah, so it's okay if he goes back and starts it over quietly. But do you see what I'm saying now? Okay. Fine.
But if I read the English, it's telling me otherwise.
Where is it saying that?
English, 40.
40.
English,
See, he make a mistake while praying silently. He never goes back and prays
He
again.
made a mistake. He said, Kadosh said,
No. So you have to read. Continue.
Because
Rather, he relies on his feel that he will stay out loud. This is true in a case where he did not make a mistake during the first three berachot. It's only if he made a mistake in the middle of the davening. He didn't say Yal v'Yava and then Shacharit. You should go back as a Yachid. There you won't go back. But if he made a mistake during those, the first three, he must go back just like an individual. Okay, that's what it is. Remember, the Shlosh Rishonot are very special berachot. You have to get those right. You have to have kavanah for them. You have to get them right. So if you made a mistake in those, you have to go back. But if you made a mistake in the middle berachot, then you don't have to go back as the chazan because you're going to be reading the Shemona Esrei out loud, so you can do it. You can rely on that. So on page 292, he brings a beautiful chart. He starts off the Gemara that says, in the case of a communal tefillah, it's a tefillah of tzibur, one does not repeat Shemona Esrei if Yal V'Yova was forgotten on Rosh Chodesh. The Rif and the Rebbeinu Yonah explained this means shaharit. If the Chazan forgot to say in his repetition Yal V'Yova, he does not go back to repeat Yal V'Yova if he finishes Shemona Esrei, because he can do it during Musaf, so he doesn't have to go back if he missed it in the repetition. The Beit Yosef says this is only on Shaharit Shel Rosh Chodesh. It does not apply to Shabbat. The Darkei Moshe, which is the Ramah Paskins, as that the same applies on Shabbat or Yom Tov. Whenever there's a Musaf, if you messed up the Shaharit, the guy read the weekday Shaharit on Shabbat in the morning, you don't make him go back to repeat it out loud. The Shabbat one, you just rely on what you're going to do for Musaf, according to the Ramah. If the Shtiva Tzir makes a mistake during his private Shemona Esrei, he does not repeat it unless the mistake was made in the first three berachot. Okay, now here I brought down Yaakov Joseph 4, 5, and 6. He brings over here, listen to this. This is interesting over here. Sheikh Tzibur Shetov B'Tfilat HaChazara. The Nivhal. Ad she'eino yochol lahamshich b'Tfilat HaChazara. V'chein Misha Kola Nitzrad V'Emtza HaChazara. So someone's davening Shemona Esrei as the Chazan, and in the middle he gets confused. He doesn't know where he's up to. And you try to tell him where to go, he's not listening. He's out, or his voice went out. Okay, Yamod Achar Tachta. Someone else can come up and take over. V'yitchil mitchilat beracha sheta'ah harishon. And he takes over from the bracha where the guy made a mistake. So every bracha you're up to, that's the bracha where he starts off from. Im hayazeh beberkot emtziot. If you're in the middle brachot after the first three. Avim hayah b'shtei berachot rishonot chozer larosh. And if it's in the first two berachot, you go back to the beginning. But if it's after say the Kiddusha, because remember, Chamavaji says that Kiddusha ends off the first set. You made a mistake in Atak Kadosh. It's considered a new set, a new bracha, and not part of them. They start from Retzeh. So if you made a mistake in the last three and you have to take over, you have to say, in the middle of Sim Shalom, you made a mistake and you can't continue, you have to start from Retzeh, because the last three is its own set as well.
If he's made a mistake in Laminim and Lashinim, he goes back to Atakadosh.
To Laminim and Lamshinim, wherever he made a mistake. Right? That's what he said. Where he made the mistake. The first one,
unless it's a set.
Unless it's a set. Right. So the first two barachot and the last three barachot. Okay. V'hu adin im nitalef. I think nitalef, what does that mean? Like passed out? Like he fainted? Sheach tzibur or nishtatek? Silent?
No, he's paralyzed.
Oh, he's paralyzed. Oh wow, so he got paralyzed. Zeh she'omer tachtav matchil tefillah v'hitpalel al haderech shebimenu. He explains that this is basically it. So if you ever wondered what would happen if Chazan can't continue, this is what you would do. Okay? You should never have such a case, but if you did, now you know what to do. It says further here, Sheach Tzibur sheta b'tfilat hachazara v'shachach lemer kedusha. Okay, somehow he forgot to say nagdisha. And doing chazara, he didn't say nagdisha. Im niskar be'emtza atak kadosh chozer lomer kedusha. Say atak kadosh shimcha kadosh, and someone screams nagdisha. Oh, nagdisha. You say right there nagdisha. U'mamshich atak kadosh. V'im lo niskar ache chatam birkat ha'el hakadosh. If you finish now ha'el hakadosh, Yomer Sham Kiddusha Beli Hatima. Now you will say Kiddusha without the ending, without the bracha again at the end. Remember, anytime that it's right after a bracha, it's still considered part. So it's still Kiddusha. You can still do Kiddusha. And you right after Nagdishach, you would start Atach Chonen. If you didn't remember until you start Atach Chonen Lamdat, you're going to have to go back to the beginning of Shmona Esrei. Okay? If you didn't say Kedusha and the Chazan got that you have to go back. Chozel Rosh. Okay. And last, the third one that I brought, Shliach Tzibur Shetav Etzvil HaChazara. Shalach HaShomer Kedusha Metzibur Dilig Ata Kadosh. Ve'etchil Ata Chonen. Sometimes this happens. Okay? He finishes Nagdishach and the Siddur, way it's set up, sometimes you don't see it says Ata Kadosh and he skipped to the next Ata Chonen. He didn't say Ata Kadosh. If you מסיים ברכת חונן הדת, חוזר לברכת אתה קדוש. ואחר כך יום ברכת אתה חונן. וממשיך על הסדר. So remember, the Chamavaji says that אתה קדוsh is a separate bracha. So it's not part of the first three. So if you missed it, you just go back to it and you continue from there. וכן, אם טעה בתפילת שחרית של שבת, וכשסיים קידושה שחר לומר אתה קדוש, והתחיל ישמח משה, עוד שטעה בתפילת מוסף של שבת. וכשסיים קידושת כתר, שכח לומר את הקודש והתחיל תיקנת שבת, חוזר לאתה קדוש. והמשיך משם והלאה, שכיוון שאמרו סדר קידושה, כתחילת ברכה דמי. It's considered a new bracha, and therefore you can start from that bracha and you don't have to go back.
Someone would say, go back to
yes, according to Rav Zalman Auerbach, no, you have to Ata Kodesh is Ata Kodesh. If you missed it, then you have to start all over again. Right, that would be the chiluk there. Okay. Fine. Now we're going to get into our next sugya here, which is Hilchot Birkat Kohanim. Now we're not going to look at the halachot of the Kohen, but rather going to look at the Hilchot of the Tzibur during the time of Birkat Kohanim. Okay, so the first thing first, the Sefer Charedim, well, which by the way, if you have time, you can read through the biography and the little biography sketch they have here. Rabbi Elazar ben Moshe Az-Zikri. That was the author of the Sefer Charedim. He lived between 1533 and 1600. He lived during the time of Yosef Karo, Shlomo Alkavetz. He was a big gadol. And he writes over here, Levarech b'hen Yisrael, shneimar kol tevarechu et b'nei Yisrael. V'Yisrael ha'omdim panim kineged pnei ha'kohanim b'shtika, u'mulchavanim libam lekabel berkatam, kedaber Hashem, hem nami b'chlal ha'mitzvah. That means that us Israelites who listen to the Kohanim say the bracha, we are actually part of the mitzvah. You think that's just the Kohen's mitzvah to give the bracha? No. according to Sefer Haredim, it's actually the Israelites' mitzvah as well to stand and get the mitzvah, to get the bracha. In fact, that's going to play out in halacha. It's a machloket in poskim if we paskin this way. That it's an Israelites' mitzvah as well. Here in the Yalkut Yosef 128.5, he writes over here. Right, 5 I wrote. So I'm sure I write the right thing here. Yesh Omer, Shechem sheitz mitzvah al Kohanim leverchet Yisrael, kach yesh mitzvah al Yisrael litbarech mipi Kohanim. Yesh chalkim, and there are those who argue, but there is poskim who say that it's a mitzvah to us to stand and get the bracha. So you're not just listening to a bracha; you're actually fulfilling the mitzvah of getting a bracha. So it's a whole different madrega now. It's a mitzvah d'oraita. Okay. Now, Sefer Chinuch tells us. Wait a second. What did I put over here?
Okay. What about when it says the Kohanim? I don't know.
No, if you're saying that we're part of the mitzvah, then it's a mitzvah d'oraita.
Where does it say that you have to be? How can you say it?
That's the machlokes. Is it or is it not? According to Sefer Haredim, it is. It's part of the mitzvah d'oraita for Israelites to get Birkat Kohanim. Therefore, you'll find people that will make sure to get Birkat Kohanim that day. You know, when Rav Steinman would come to America, he would make sure to daven by Sfaradim to go hear Birkat Kohanim because he held that an Israelite getting Birkat Kohanim is a mitzvah d'oraita, and as such, you have to go out and get it. When I was living in Borough Park, we had a couple Ashkenazim that always come to my father's shul just to hear Birkat Kohanim. They would go to our shul, they go to my uncle's shul, other people's shuls there, to Sephardic shuls to hear Birkat Kohanim, because according to them, Birkat Kohanim to Israelite to hear it's a mitzvah d'oraita. It actually the Yalkut Yosef brings it down to halacha that there's some halachot that you might think that you should actually go after this. Yesh Armim sheyesh lo l'shmo kriyat Torah. Okay, let's follow. 1 second. Bishna enes v'lo yitpalel b'tzibor ve'v'si Birkat Kohanim v'kriyat Torah. Someone prayed at home. He didn't hear kriyat Torah and he didn't hear Birkat Kohanim. V'yesh b'yado ha'efsherut. Now he has a choice. V'lechet v'lishmoa Birkat Kohanim or kriyat Torah. He's got 5 minutes. He can hear either Torah reading or he can hear Birkat Kohanim. See, it depends. Yeah, in the machloket, what are you holding? What are you holding l'maisa? Yesh Omrim sheyesh lo l'shmo kriyat Torah shenitkana lechovat hatzibur. V'yesh Omrim sheyesh lo lahadif l'shmo Birkat Kohanim. The Shema yesh mitzvah gam al Yisrael leitvarech mipi Kohanim v'haver le'safek b'mitzvah deoraita. It's a safek mitzvah deoraita. You should be very. You have to take it l'chumra here. It's a safek mitzvah d'oraita. You have to work your hardest to get Birkat Kohanim. According to these poskim who say that the Israelite getting the bracha, is a mitzvah d'oraita. So it's a big kiddush to me too. But this is the way Sefer Chinuch says. They bring it down. This is the way the poskim say. Here in the Sefer Chinuch on page 294, source 42, it says Shnitztavu Kohanim shebarechu Yisrael b'chol yom. The mitzvah is to say Birkat Kohanim every single day. Every single day is to say Birkat Kohanim. Now, in a minute, here he says as well, Mitzvah Nisil Kepayim Him in the Torah, Gam Bezman Hazeh. It's a mitzvah d'oraita Bezman Hazeh Birkat Kohanim. She'ein lanu Bezman Hazeh she'ein lo Beit HaMikdash Uvatala Havada Beit HaMikdash. Still, Birkat Kohanim is a mitzvah d'oraita. So Yalkut Yosef Paskins, Birkat Kohanim is a mitzvah d'oraita. Now, the Maiseh, why don't Ashkenazim, the majority of Ashkenazim, especially in Chutz La'aretz, now in Eretz Yisrael, why don't they do Birkat Kohanim? Okay, so first we'll read the Ramah, and then we'll talk about the story of the Vilna Gaon and Chaim Volozhner, who they tried to reinstitute. But let's look at the reason that they bring from the Ramah. Someone without a wife, he doesn't say Birkat Kohanim. If there's a man who is not married, he shouldn't do Birkat Kohanim. If there's a Kohen, he shouldn't do it. Because Shari B'loi Simcha, Mevarach Yesh Lo Layot B'Simcha, V'Nogu Shenos Lekapa. But the minhag is even an unmarried man should do Nesiyat Kapayim. He should do the Duchani. According to the Ramah, says you need to have Simcha in order. You have to be happy in order to do Birkat Kohanim. Now he writes, this is the minhag Ashkenaz. Nogu B'chol Midinot Elu She'ein Nosim Kapayim Elu B'Yom Tov Meshum She'az Shuriyim B'Simchat Yom Tov V'Tov Lev Hu Yivarech. Mashe'en kain b'shar yomim afil b'shabbatot hashana Shetardim behurim al mechayatam val bitu melachtam. People all week are busy with their parnasa. All week they're busy with even Shabbat. They're thinking about their money or the lack of money that they're making. But only by Tchilat Musaf. Because by Musaf, then they're coming out, and apparently at that time they're going to be happy. I don't know if that means they're leaving shul and they're happy. I don't know what that means, but somehow that means that by Musaf they're most happier, and that's why they do Birkat Kohanim only on Musaf on Yom Tov. They're not working for extended period.
No, nice meal. Simchat Yom Tov.
So this is what the Ramah says. A minute before, the child running away. I hear. Now, there are many Ashkenazic poskim who came out and said that this to be batel to mivatel Birkat Kohanim, a mitzvah d'oraita, is incorrect, and we need to reinstitute it. And they wanted to bring it back. One of those who wanted to bring it back was the Vilna Gaon. The Vilna Gaon, he wanted to bring it back. And what happened when he wanted to bring it back? They say that when he wanted to bring it back, he got arrested that day. He got arrested. The day that he wanted to reinstitute it, he got arrested. And he felt that it was because he wanted to change the minhag of the Ashkenazim. And therefore, he said, you know what? I'm not going to touch it. I'm going to leave it as is. They say also, Rav Chaim Volozhin also wanted to do, so here he says as follows. It is told that the Gaon of Vilna greatly yearned to reinstate the mitzvah Birkat Kohanim. He said, why are we getting rid of it? We have to bring it back. He kept thinking. Finally, one day he said, I'm going to do it. And that day, the Gaon was thrown into jail on trumped up charges. He said, this is a simam in a shemayim, that the minhag Ashkenaz, I'm not going to change. And he didn't change. Similarly, it said, Rav Chaim Volozhin said, there's no reason not to do Birkat Kohanim. It's a mitzvah d'oraita, you have to bring it back. And the day he was about to do it, a fire broke out in Volozhin, and half the town, as well as the shul, was burnt down. And so he said it was simam min hashamayim not to do it. They say the Alter Rebbe also wanted to bring it back, and also something happened that caused him to go back on it. The other understandings, other poskim say it's because today we're not as pure. Today the financial distress is the Ramah. Some say it's a big tircha de tzibura. But Ashkenazim, when they make Birkat Kohanim on Yom Tov, it's a whole song and thing, and it takes a while. They come by us, it's 2-minute thing, in and out. So some poskim said by them, it's a tircha de tzibura to do a whole thing to get them every day to do it. Because they do a whole thing out of it. Right. And if they did it every day, they'll also do it fast.
It's like 1 hour.
It's also from the Zohar. The Zohar says if there's goyim in the shul, you're not allowed to do Birkat Kohanim. So apparently in the Ashkenaz communities, there were sometimes goyim that walked into the shul, so they weren't allowed to do Birkat Kohanim, according to the Zohar. So they didn't want to do it. And then from the Rav Ephraim Zalman Margolius, in his Bet Ephraim, says that there was an issue with the lineage of Kohanim by Ashkenazim, whether they were actually Kohanim, whether they weren't, since there were some Sveikot because of that. So Rav Margolius in his Bet Ephraim says that's another reason why they don't do it. So now, however, in Eretz Yisrael, in most of Eretz Yisrael, Ashkenazim also do Birkat Kohanim every single day. Outside of Eretz Yisrael, there are some Ashkenazic places that do it every single day. By the Mizrachnikim, you see some of them starting to do it outside of Eretz Yisrael also. They do it every day. I've seen a few Ashkenazic places starting to do it every day or starting to do it just on Shabbat. I know in Queens, the shul Bet Yaakov, which is an Ashkenaz shul, Rabbi Pekarsky shul, Rabbi Pekarsky from back in the days, and Saunders. So there now a lot of Bukharians are davening there, and they wanted to do, but still they davened expired, but they wanted to do Birkat Kohanim, and there was a long time no one. So Yidi, the president of the shul, went to Rabbi Avram Shor in Flatbush, and he asked him, and Rabbi Avram Shor said, if the people want, the people want. He didn't say yes, he didn't say no. He said the people want, the people want. And they started doing it. I heard they started with Shabbat Musaf, then it came Shabbat Shacharit, now it became every day.
Not Ashkenazi anymore.
Right, it's not Ashkenazi. So now they do it, from what I hear, now they're doing it every day. But this is where the minhag of Ashkenazim not to do it, this is where it comes from. Those are the major sources and the stories that go with it of why they don't do it.
Before Ramon. The deal or no?
What?
Before Ramon.
Before?
Before Ramon.
Before. No, so he actually brings here in the Tzurba, he says that there are already opinions in the Rishonim that said not to do it every single day. In note 21. So the custom was already mentioned and accepted by earlier Rishonim, including the Maharam of Rothenburg, the Orchot Chaim, and the Kolbo. They said not to do it in every single day. So there is a source in Rishonim for them not to do it every single day. Okay, that's their minhag. Our minhag is that we do it every single day. The only time we would do it at minhag or in the afternoon. The only time we do it minhag in the afternoon is on Yom Kippur during Ne'ilah, which is in the last half hour before Shkia, and on Ta'anit Tzibur, only in the last half hour before Shkia. If you're praying, according to Sfaradim, if you're praying Mincha Gedolah on a Ta'anit, you do not make Birkat Kohanim. Okay? After Plag, there's a machloket. Some say yes, some say no. If they do it in that shul after Plag and Mincha, you don't have to stop them. They have what to rely on, but we don't do that l'chatchila. We only do Birkat Kohanim at the Kosher Shkia, Samach Shkia. So us here in our shul on Tisha B'Av, we're going to be saying Birkat Kohanim twice. Because we have the minhag, like Maran Rishon and Sion Chamovadia, to put on Tefillin on Shacharit, so we made Birkat Kohanim and Shacharit. Okay, and then Mincha, we're going to pray Samach Shkia, so Ta'anit, again, we're going to make Birkat Kohanim. Other than that, we don't make Birkat Kohanim. Okay, now, what is the conduct of the Tzibur? So now we're standing in front of the Kohanim, as I gave in the Birkat Kohanim. How do we behave? Amar Rabbi Yoitzi, Zot Omer, this is from Talmud Yerushalmi, Sha'aser lehistakel b'Kohanim, b'shat shehen mivarachin et Yisrael. You're not allowed to look at the Kohanim when they're blessing the Jewish people. Okay, it's also to lehistakel. Shulchan Aruch says, Va'am yichabenu lebracha. They pay attention to the bracha. V'yu pneim kineged pnei Kohanim. Their face should be facing the Kohanim. But they should not be looking at them. What does it mean? Yistakalu, to look at, right? So you not look at the Kohanim's face, and now look at the Kohanim's hands.
They're covered anyway.
Oh, so that's one of the reasons why they cover. But even the cover, you're still not supposed to look at them. Yeah, better not to. But that's one of the reasons why they do cover with the talit. But tamhu gamkein kedeshel yisichu da'atam mehabracha. You have to pay attention to the bracha. You have to pay attention to what they're saying. So if you're looking at them, you're not going to pay attention. You're going to look how they wave this way, wave that way. You know, you're not supposed to be looking because you're supposed to be paying attention to the brachot that they're saying. Therefore, you shouldn't be looking at anything else. Okay. Medina eno aser. Now from the din, eno aser elo b'histakelut meruba. But to look at them for a moment, it's not going to break your kavanah, so you're allowed to look. Now, dafka bezman hamigdash shayu mavarchim b'shem mufurash v'ashkina itashur al yedayim he also afilu riak kitzat. Mashain came bezman hazeh. He says, in the time in the Beit HaMikdash, when they would actually do Birkat Kohanim, the Shekhinah would be in their hands. And as such, you weren't allowed to look even for a second. But today, there's no Beit HaMikdash. They're not using the Shem Mefurash. Therefore, you're allowed to look for a second. But then he brings, Mishnah Berurah says, Mikol Mokom nohagin gam achshav zecher l'mikdash shelo hebit bahem kalal. Not to look at them at all. So for us, when we see the Kohanim doing it, we don't look at them. We look at ourselves when we are doing the Birkat Kohanim, and we pay attention to what the Kohanim are saying, not on what they're wearing, not their socks. You know, some people like to look at what color socks they're wearing. We don't do this. And so he says here in the Yalkut Joseph, "V'lechein ein la'asich da'atam me'abracha, ela yu einehem kalpei mata k'moshe omed b'tfilah, u'pneihem keged pnei kohanim, v'lo yistakelu b'kohanim, they shelo yisichu da'atam me'abracha." Okay, and then he brings the exact same thing the Mishnah Berurah said, that it's only a full look, not a partial look, but today, should do still Zeichel Hamikdash, don't look at all. Okay? So you're supposed to close your eyes like you're davening when the Birkat Kohanim comes in. Okay.
What if there's no Levim too? I mean, in regards to washing hands, there's no Levim, or the Levim are busy.
There are those who say Bechor could do it, but it's I believe saying in the Yalkut Joseph that he says it's better that the Kohen do it himself, not even the Bechor should do it. Yeah, it's better not. If Bechor does it, you could. Bechor means the actual Bechor, first male born, can do it, not the first
I
male.
want to help them. I cannot.
No, they do it themselves. They'll do it themselves. Now, moving on,
Why I cannot?
because it's not the derech, it's not the seder. Levi has to do it. The covenant is a Levi doing, not Yisrael doing. Bechor, because he's supposed to work in the Mikdash, so he has some sort of.
If Yisrael does it,
Shouldn't be done.
the deed, a good deed, no?
No,
Yeah.
it's breaking the seder. It's not the seder. Levi is masharish to the kohen.
If I break the seder, is the problem?
It's better not to do it.
No, I understand. But is it? The
Don't
problem?
do it. Don't. Yeah, it's a problem. It doesn't look right. Not the right seder. Now I'm gonna think you're a Levi. I'm gonna call you up for Levi.
No, I would. Is it the same thing like Levi that has a job of Shah and he's going to Sha'arim? He does actually Shira or the Shira.
Right.
does the
It
Levim.
seems
They
to be that it's the Levi's job.
Chayav
That's why even those that say that you can do it. I don't know if it's Chayav Mita, but even there are those persons who say Bechor shouldn't do it because of that, because it's supposed to be just the Levi. That's why Bechor shouldn't do it at all. So, of course, if you're not a Bechor, then you definitely shouldn't be doing it. The Kohanim should be doing it themselves.
But I want to help him.
Help them with giving them the towel. Okay. Misha nichnos lebeit hakneset letzarich eza inyan u'motza kohanim hanoseim et kapeim ya'amod ve'yishma birkat kohanim v'lo yatzar in beit hakneset ad shesamu habracha. Because we said birkat kohanim is you getting it is part of being d'oraita, part of the mitzvah d'oraita of you taking the mitzvah, taking the bracha, so you're not allowed to leave. V'chei misha yoshev oisik b'torah beit hakneset v'gi yatzil birkat kohanim ya'amod ve'yishma birkat kohanim. He has to stop and listen to Birkat Kohanim because us taking the bracha from the Kohanim is a mitzvah d'oraita, according to those poskim who say that. Therefore, you have to do that. Now, what's the position? Now, the Magen Avram says, Mikra Adin, narrowly, that Tzibur Rashaim Li Yashev. Really, you're allowed to sit when Birkat Kohanim is happening. Rak Shayu Paneim can negate Kohanim. Rather, your face has to be opposite the Kohanim's face. The Be'inyan, Shia Panim negate Panim. So really, you're allowed to sit. Now the Tzitz Eliezer says, "Al afa omer minhag hakola amor b'shat birkat kohanim." He says the minhag is to stand. He says if someone is sick or weak or something like that, they have permission to sit. So it says in the Yalkut Yosef, "Kol hatzibur la'amol deregleim be'ema uv'yira uv'chaved rosh." They're allowed to sit. So if someone is weak or sick or old, he can't stand, he can sit, make radin, but everyone else should be standing. Continuing. Tana idach, kotivarachu. So
the Kohen himself is speaking. Can you speak there?
And do Birkat Kohanim sitting? I don't know. Today we're dealing with the Tzibur's halachot of Birkat Kohanim. Maybe another day we'll do the Kohen's obligation. Tana idach. I never seen it. You ever saw a Kohen sit and do Birkat Kohanim? I haven't seen that. Tana idach. Kotivarachu. If he's a yachid, only Kohen, then there's a way to do it. You can watch. You can watch Rabbi Daniel Cohen in practice when he does it. He's the only Kohen and he does the whole thing. Yeah. Tana idach. Kotivarachu. Panim keneged panim. Atar panim keneged panim. Or einu el panim keneged orif. Tamilomer melahem. Say to them. The Gemara says you have to be speaking as a person to person. It has to be face to face. So that's why it says over here in the Shulchan Aruch. If someone is behind the Kohen, he's not in the bracha of Birkat Kohanim. Right, the people. Okay, even if you have a iron mechitza,
the women behind the mechitza,
they still Birkat Kohanim goes. In fact, the Gemara says it goes into the fields. It goes into the fields where people who can't come to shul. Birkat Kohanim goes to them. Okay, so v'achareim nami imhem anusim kigon am shebesadot. The people who are in the fields, shem tordim milachtan, they can't get to shul. They have to go work. Ve'enim yochlim lavo heim b'chal bracha. They also get Birkat Kohanim. Okay? So Birkat Kohanim goes everywhere except for the people standing in the back in the shul.
So they have to be face to face.
They have to be face to face. Face to face.
If you're standing
So we're gonna show. Give me a minute. I'm gonna show everything. Okay. I'm shachrai kohanim. Hainu afilu enu achreihem mamash elu meshuchim litzadim. Kivan shal kol panim hu machreihem enu b'chal bracha. Afilu enu mafsik midei beinam levein kohanim. So even if you're on the side, but you're diagonally to them. So here in this sefer, the sefer is Birkat Shelema, and this is a nice, beautiful sefer that they put out as far as in the Syrian congregations, and they put over here. Here is the example. Here's the Kohanim, and here are you on the side of them, to the side, but diagonal to the back. You're not considered part of the bracha. This is not the bracha. You have to be, you're going to see, you have to be like this, right over here. See this guy? He's in the same line as them. Once you're in the same line with them, that's already okay. Anything that's diagonal or back, these guys all the way in the back over here, no good.
Can you see the page on the right, please?
Okay, so hold on a second. I'll show you the page. I forgot you guys were here. Sorry. Okay, so this is page 1. This is, the guys are diagonally in behind them to the side. Okay, like this is no good.
No, there's the steps.
The next picture is these guys are way behind.
There's a lot of room.
See that guy in the side over there way behind? He's not in the Birkat Kohanim. This picture, you see this is the picture? Yeah. See where the arrow is? That guy is in the same line as the Kohanim. Once he's in the same line as the Kohanim, he's now in the bracha. Okay, you have to be in front or in the same line as them. That's called panim b'panim, keged panim. Anything other words, you're not getting Birkat Kohanim. That's why you'll see Ami and myself always walking out from our table and going behind over there because we want to get Birkat Kohanim. Otherwise, we didn't do anything. Therefore, we have to move. Yes, Avram.
Birkat Kohanim extends to the fields, correct? So let's say when the Birkat Kohanim extends to the fields, correct? People out in the field. So if the field is behind, behind them or outside,
it goes to them.
You mean behind them?
It says, it says. Listen what it says here. Look in Shulchan Aruch. Nami im heim anusim. If they're anusim, it only works to go to the fields or behind if you're an anus.
Meaning to say the people are behind. They're behind is for the Kohanim, but not that they're behind the Kohanim.
The Kohanim blessing this,
no, the people.
Even look at 51. Even the people behind them, behind the Kohanim, if they are there against their will, like people in the fields who are busy with their work and cannot come, they are included in the bracha.
Kohanim blessing this way, so everything in front of them.
No, you're learning about.
That's people who can
have an option,
right? To go in front of them. Right. It's only when you have no option, the Shulchan Aruch says, and you're in behind because there's no option. Okay, this would be if you're in the fields because you can't get there because of work, or the shul is packed to the brim that you can't move. You can't go now in front of it because you can't. It's not physically unable to move. This is now the bracha will go to you over there. But if you're able to go in front, then the bracha will not go in back. You have to come in front of the kohen. That's what the Shulchan Aruch says. Mishnah Berurah Tzadik Hey. He says, "Avol milifnei u'mitzadeim pirish only by elu shehem milifnei kohanim mishuchim tzadim shita de b'klal brachahem elu afilu keneged tzadei kohanim mamash afilu hachi b'klal brachahem." If they're on the side of the kohen mamash, like we said, in the same line, then Birkat Kohanim comes to them. Okay. Now hold on one second. Here in the Yalkut Yosef, I wrote down 63 first. He writes over here, Hatzibur tzrichim la'amod keneged kohanim, ol tzdeim shelefanim, v'lo la'achrehem, kidei sheyu b'chal bracha. You have to stand either directly on the side or right in front. Now he says over here, V'em habanim ba'im etzel avehem. The children come to their father to get the bracha. The father ain't a kohen. He's not a kohen. Kohanim. It's the minhag. Everyone goes under the father's talit. Yesh lomer lehem shayu peneim kilveg kohanim. Those boys who come under their father's talit should not be facing their father. They have to be facing the kohanim. A lot of people, I've seen it over, and many times I say it, people think I'm talking off my, I'm crazy. I tell them you cannot be facing your father. Your father and everybody under talit has to be facing the kohanim. when I was little, I used to come to my father, and I used to go under the talit. My father would take my head and turn it, and put it to face the Kohanim. Right? You take me and my brother and turn our heads to face the Kohanim, because you had to be facing the Kohanim, not facing the father. I see sometimes they have like one grandfather, and everyone tries to come under, and everyone's facing the grandfather. You're not facing the Kohen. You didn't get the bracha. You have to be facing him to get the bracha. Right? When you have that option. So you have to do that.
Disrespectful to the Shekhinah. They still get b'diavad. They get the bracha. It's just disrespectful to the Shekhinah.
I don't know. I would think that if you have to be there, you have to be standing face to face. Not facing the father. You have to be facing the Kohen. I mean, if they don't know, and it's a mistake. I'm sure they get the bracha. But now that we know, you have to spread it around. So if you see people doing it incorrectly, you have to tell them. Now, don't tell them right at that moment. You can tell them beforehand better. And either after davening, tell them, I saw what you did. I just want to help you get the bracha better. And you said it in a nice way. Hopefully they'll listen.
Better connection.
Yeah, you got a better connection to get the bracha. But that is the din that he brings down over here. Okay, now he moves on over here to 53. Shulchan Aruch says you don't say nothing when Birkat Kohanim is happening. There are people you'll see are mumbling on the saying a whole thing. They have 10 papers underneath them. They're saying. Shulchan Aruch says you do not say anything. Okay, the same thing, similar thing. Rosh Hashanah is coming soon. People think when the shofar is blowing, they're supposed to be saying a million things. You're not even supposed to have any hirhurim when you hear the shofar blowing. You're supposed to have one machshava. I'm fulfilling the mitzvah of tiyat the shofar. In between, when he takes a stop, the way we did in Or Natan, we would give a minute between each set. That's the time to have hirurei tshuva. When in the sitting tikiyot, we gave a minute in between, and people had kavanah. After that, blow. You just have one kavanah to fulfill the mitzvah. Same thing. You're getting the bracha. You're elu yishtiku v'yichavenu the bracha. You have to pay attention to the bracha. There's going to be one exception to this. He doesn't bring it here, but this is if a person had a bad dream. You had a bad dream. There's a special Ribbon Shalom that you say, special tefillah that you say. That is the only time you're allowed to say something during Birkat Kohanim. Okay? L'maisa, I think most of us don't say this tefillah ever, of Sfaradim at least, because, I don't know anyone who takes their dreams seriously so much. But if you did, there is such a tefillah. I heard by Ashkenazim, sometimes they actually have it part of their davening because they do Birkat Kohanim so infrequent that when they do it, they try to get this tefillah in for their dreams. On Yom Tov, yeah. Now the Ramah says we call Makom Achshav Kohanim Ma'arichin Harbe B'Nugonim. He says by the Ashkenazim, they're all singing away when they're doing Birkat Kohanim because again it's infrequent, doesn't happen so often, so they make a whole big deal out of it. So no Gugam Kain learn Psukim. So now you have time to say the Psukim. I don't know if the Ramah means in between. It doesn't. But then he says, "Ach yoter tov shelo le'amra." But he himself says it's better not to say anything. Okay, it's better not to say anything when the Kohanim are making the bracha. You're just paying attention to the brachot, understand the words, and accept the bracha. That is your mitzvah. Nothing else. No psukim. I don't know. But he's sending out all these things. People say, "Look, do pay attention." Not even supposed to look at anything else. Just pay attention to the bracha. Mishnah Berurah says. Why you have to just listen? The kum yesh eved shemevarchin ato ve'enu ma'azin. Can it be an eved that they're giving him a bracha and he doesn't listen? Hashem's giving you a bracha and you're not listening. You're busy saying other things. We don't do that. Hashem's giving us a bracha. We have to pay full attention to the bracha. Here it says in the Yalkut Yosef. So if you want to see halacha l'maisa for today, for Sfaradim today, v'chein tzrichim kol hatzibur lahazin v'hakshив l'berkat kohanim. Ve'en royu loimer shum posuk ve'etahi. Sheklum yesh eved sheraboy mevarchu ve'enu ma'azin l'brachato. Is there an eved? We give him a bracha and he doesn't listen. So therefore, for us, when they're doing this, we're not bringing anything else involved. Okay, very good. I know you're going to ask us. That's why I brought the next halakha in the Yalkut Yosef. Hatzibur oine amein achar birkat kohanim. So they say the birkat of kohanim in between. B'kedushat shel Aaron tzivanu v'echadamo Yisrael be'ahava. He says the bracha amen. Everyone answers amen to that. No. This whole Kenny Hiratzon, forget about it. This is not what the Yalkut says to do. V'achar kol pasuk u'pasuk mivarechet kohanim u'minhagenu la'anot baruchu baruch shemo b'birkat kohanim. Achakol Iskarat Shem Hashem Shel Kohanim. Achtov She'anu Zot Malachach. You should be saying Baruch Hu Shemo quietly. You don't say anything. Not even Baruch Hu Shemo. Right. There are those who say that. Only Amen. That's correct. There are those who say that. But even if we do say Baruch Hu Shemo, which we Svardim do have a minute to say Baruch Hu Shemo, there are those who do not say, just say Amen. But even if those who do have a minute to say Baruch Hu Shemo, you're supposed to say Baruch Hu Shemo quietly. No one's supposed to hear you say it. V'lo b'koram. Kedei, why? Shalom libalvel et asher tzibur ha'mekri lekohanim. Because you're going to mess up the shliach tzibur. He's saying one thing, you're saying something. He's all getting confused. So the minhag is to say it quietly. Ulam, he says over here, "Ein legar ba'otam ha'anim baruch hu b'shemo b'koram." So, however, if there are those who are screaming baruch hu b'shemo out loud, you don't have to protest. You don't make a macha.
Reb Moshe, hold on. So Birkat Kohanim, we have to say Baruch Hu Shema silently.
You should be saying it silently, right? Silently means that no one should hear you say it. You say it with your lips, but no one should hear you say it.
I usually say it loud. That's why I asked. Okay.
Right. So the Alkut Yosef says we should not be saying it out loud. We say Amen after the Birkat Kohanim and after every bracha. You say Amen. The next Yichuneka, Amen. Everything Amen, but you don't say Baruch Hu Shemo out loud. And this Ken Yehirat song that people say after Yivarechecha, I know people haven't been hacked to do this. He doesn't even bring this in over here. It's like it's a non-starter.
What does it mean here? It's Amen. It's true.
It means it should be.
It should be.
Because the word Yivarechecha is a bracha in itself. People want to say Ken Yehirat song or something like that. But it's not good to do that. Yes.
One
second, Malkiel. Let me just take. Okay, Malkiel, go ahead.
If there's no Kohanim and the Chazan says the stanza, so they say Ken Yehirat, no?
You say Ken Yehirat. We're gonna get to that in a minute. That's the next thing I broke down. Yes. Amen.
Not to pause after the chant.
Right.
Don't make it illegal.
Don't make it legal.
Don't make it legal to say Baruch Hu.
Right.
Whoever is going to say it.
Says it quietly. Right. We don't make a whole stop for it. Correct. Right. It should be just Amen. That's the main thing. If you pay attention, that's the way I know it. With you don't hear me saying Baruch Hu Shema. You don't hear me saying anything else. You also hear me saying Amen. That's it. Because that's the way it's supposed to be done.
One more thing I want to ask you.
Sure.
I want to ask you after, but I think it's better to ask now.
Okay, sure.
The Chazan sometimes sing Yevarecha. He's starting to sing Yevarecha.
So the Alkut Yosef says about this.
This is not the Chazan's job.
He says
if the Kohanim want to say to sing Yevarecha, okay, but the Chazan have to say Yevarecha.
Yes.
Hashem.
So Alkut Yosef says you should not be ma'arich in Chazanut because he said it's going to mess up the Kohanim. Exactly. So you could do a little bit of Chazanut, a little nice. That's it. You shouldn't make it, especially you have Kohanim who are not so proficient with Chazanut, right? And then you're going to start stretching things. They're going to get confused. You hear it sometimes, right? Someone does a fancy Birkat Kohanim, the Chazan makes a fancy words, fancy tunes, and the Kohen is like trying to catch up or start and be like, it's not good. Yeah.
We say the
Birkat Kohanim.
So the Kohanim making a song to give a chance.
Time to say it.
Time to say
right. That's what the Ramah says. Because they sing so much, they have time to say things.
Yeah.
But otherwise, the way we do it, you shouldn't be saying anything in there. Okay, now, Malkiel, you can say Baruch Hu Shema quietly. Best if you say it out loud, we don't protest. But it's better to say it quietly. And you should say Amen. The Kenyan song he doesn't bring down over here after the So it's like, to me, it's a non-starter. That's why I don't say because I don't see him saying anything about it. I don't know where. If you show me where it says to do it, it is. I know people do it. I'm not saying you shouldn't do it. I'm just saying that he says not to. He doesn't say to do it. Okay, Malkiel asked a good question. What about when you don't have a Kohanim in the shul? Okay. So here the Chazan says the special brachot. Now I there's a couple of things I have to say here, but we'll start one at a time. Okay, first thing, it says over here, Kishain Kohanim, Omer Hashem Tzurba, Elokeinu Elokei Avotenu. Tzrichim HaKahal Omed Be'et Sheomer Nusach Zeh. Everyone has to stand, just as if you would stand if there's a real Birkat Kohanim. We would say Elokeinu Elokei Avotenu. You should know, Ashkenazim, they say Elokeinu Elokei Avotenu, even when they're doing Birkat Kohanim with real Kohanim. Okay, they start off Elokeinu Elokei Avotenu. We don't do that when we have real Kohanim. We only say that Lashon of L'keinu L'kei Avotenu only when there is no Kohanim. Kashiach tzibur omer L'keinu L'kei Avotenu tzarchim ha'am la'anot ken yehi ratzon. Not amen ken yehi ratzon. Ken yehi ratzon. There are those you're going to hear say, and some Siddurim that say amen ken yehi ratzon. The Achayosh says you do not say that. You say achar kol pasuk shebirkat Kohanim shomer Mashiach tzibur v'lo ya'anu amen. You don't say amen. Because it's not the Birkat Kohanim legit. It's a nusach. So you say, Ken yehi ratzon. Now the Ben Ish Chai, he doesn't bring this here. The Ben Ish Chai says to say, B'schut Abraham. You see what some Hasidim, they say B'schut Avraham Avinu, and B'schut Yitzchak Avinu. And then they say B'schut Yaakov Avinu. The Ben Ish Chai says not to say B'schut Yaakov Avinu. You say B'schut Yaakov, and then you say B'schut Moshe, Aharon, David, and Yosef. That's what the Ben Ish Chai says to do. To bring all the Shiva Ro'im, all the 7 shepherds of Klal Yisrael, you say all of them there. He doesn't say to say this here, but that's from the Ben Ish Chai.
When do we do this?
Moving, yeah.
During Birkat Kohanim, we will mention these names?
No. Not during the real Birkat Kohanim. This
When?
is only during the one when there's no Kohanim. Then you can say Ken yehi ratzon, and the Ben Ish Chai says you can say B'schut Avraham. He doesn't say you say B'schut Avraham Avinu. I saw when I daven by the Satmanis, they say B'schut Avraham Avinu. They say B'schut Yitzchak Avinu. They say the B'schut. Marek, how are you? Okay. Now, moving on to the next halacha. Kevar nitvarel el she'im ein kohanim. V'omer Mashiach tzibur Elokeinu L'kei Avotenu tzarich, he must. Chazan l'sayem b'sof v'samu et shemi al b'nei Yisrael v'ani avarichem. Why our Sephardic Siddurim, it always says to say v'samu et shemi Yisrael v'ani avarichem. And we have here some young kids who go to Ashkenazic yeshivot. They see they don't say v'samu et shemi Yisrael v'ani avarichem. They become Chazan here, and they decide not to do what the Siddur says, and they skip that verse. It's very incorrect. We have our Sephardic halachot, and we have to follow what to do. Always the Sephardim would say, people don't know what to do, so they skip it. He says over here on page 213, he says, what does this mean? It's a haftacha, it's a guarantee. Shakadosh Baruch Hu maskim the Birkat Kohanim. Upirush v'ani avarchem chozal Yisrael. The Katzir Tzibur einem omrim oto. If sharo kain etzel Ashkenazim hanogim k'moshe katuv harama v'darchei Moshe shloi amru v'samich v'yisav v'ani avarchem v'einam ela to'im. These Svaradim who are taking this away and not saying this pasuk are simply mistaken. The tzarich lahasbir lehem, you have to explain to them. Sha'anu nahagim k'divrei rabotenu hagoanim v'harambam umaran the Shulchan Aruch Shikivalnu harotav, that we took their halachot, and we have to do this. It's very important. It's the same thing with Amonai Sefatai Tiftach Afilagiti Latecha V'Asfaradim. We have to say it out loud, not quiet. Your Ashkenazim, they do what their halacha is. We have to do what our halacha is. We cannot skip this around. Next, okay, this is on Birkat Kohanim when there is no Kohen. Any questions to that, Malkiel? Or we're good? Okay, fine. We have 5 more minutes, so we're going to go. Before we go to the next section, I just want to be Meduid Olam. I told Avram already. We're finishing up volume 11. Volume 12 has already been printed, and Be'ezus Hashem, we plan on ordering them. I'm going to put it into the group. Anyone who wants to get a sefer, please message me. I want to make the order already this week, Be'ezus Hashem. I'm going to try to get the discounted price. Just tell me how many Sfarim you want. And we're going to order for the shul separately, and we're going to order for people anyone wants separate their own. And B'ezrat Hashem, within a week or two, we'll have it. B'ezrat Hashem, in 3 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, we'll already be starting the new sefer. So just FYI on that. Okay.
What's the topic?
It's on the end of Tefillah. So Kriyat Torah, Kaddish, Nechot Kaddish, and stuff like that. It's going to be an amazing time. All right. Let's take a look now. What about women and Birkat Kohanim? Hilchot for women and Birkat Kohanim. The Minchat Chinuch, he says, if we accept the Sefer Charedim that said it's a mitzvah on every Israelite to get Birkat Kohanim, it's a Doraita to get Birkat Kohanim, then he says you extend this to the woman as well. In Cain, according to the Sefer Charedim, Mechuyevet Hanashim Gam Cain, they also the Min HaTorah it's min ha'Torah. Ein hazman grama the habi kimot tefillah. Birkat Kohanim that we do only in the morning, min ha'Torah, it can be done anytime. The Rabbanan said it has to be done in the morning because they didn't drink yet, they're not drunk yet, and stuff like that. So really, Birkat Kohanim is not a mitzvah shezman grama, and it's a mitzvah d'oraita on every Jew to get it. Therefore, a lady should also get Birkat Kohanim.
Oh, that's it.
Tzitzit. That's tzitzit. Let's not deal with tzitzit. I know. They say it's God night you're supposed to wear it too. I know. But that's what this is the minchas chinuch. It's not me. As Minchas Chinuch says, this is not a town by mitzvah. Women should get it. Now, based on this, the Regisha Lev says women who are present in shul are included in the mitzvah to hear Birkat Kohanim, but they're not required to go to shul to hear it. Because women, they're always considered anus. They're always considered besadot. They're in the houses. They're cleaning. They're cooking. They should be. I don't know what they do nowadays. Right. So they get it at home because filu mechitza shel barzel doesn't stop Birkat Kohanim. But if they're in shul, they should stop and listen to it. Accordingly, he says, women should pause in the middle of davening to listen to Birkat Kohanim if they're in the middle of the Shemona Esrei. Okay. Now, the actual halacha, if you're Rami, you probably know this. What do you do? Because you always have a long Shemona Esrei. It's a good thing. What do you do if you're in the middle of your Shemona Esrei and they're up to Birkat Kohanim? Do you stop and pause and listen to Birkat Kohanim, or you just continue going? You pause and listen, right? So I was looking through it last night, and I saw there are actually different opinions whether you have to stop or not. It seems to be you really don't have to stop. You can actually continue, but people are noyek to stop. So he says over here, based on this, a woman all has the same chiyuv based on the way we're learning the Sefer Chinuch, Sefer Charedim and the Minchas Chinuch. The women also should stop, preferable to stop if they're middle of Shemona Esrei to hear Birkat Kohanim. So this is the Hilchot of Birkat Kohanim. Thank you, Rami, for the practical application of it. Fine. I think we're out of time. It's 9:45. Everybody should, if you have the time to read the Machshava, let me know if you want to order a Sefer, and B'ezrat Hashem will get it for you.